one thing I know as a director is that I'll never make a good actor, because the minute I get on the stage, I ditch the whole script. And I don't know whether it's stage fright or the impressive speeches that went before, or just the fear that what I have to say is not the right tone for the audience. But I might look at it occasionally just to let it's there. But there's one thing about Alain's chronology that's just slightly wrong, and it's kind of important. And that's the chronology of Rwanda, Bosnia, Somalia. It was actually Somalia, Rwanda, Bosnia. Now the reason I bring that up is that it's of vital importance, because what happened in Somalia had such a huge impact on what happened in Rwanda and in Bosnia. And basically what happened in Somalia was that 18 American soldiers nobly lost their lives. And because those 18 American soldiers lost their lives, what happened in Rwanda and Bosnia was changed completely. Because there were people in the White House and in London and in Paris who were not, and in Brussels and in Amsterdam, who were not prepared to risk one more white soldier for the 10,000 Rwandans, or the 100,000, or the 800,000, or the 7,000 Bosnians who were murdered in Srebrenica. And that's a vitally important thing about peacekeeping and what happened. And when I look through the statistics to go into this today, there's a couple of other things that are interesting. And it is, this is changing, but any representatives of the Western powers in the room tonight, I apologize ahead of myself. But there are 117,000, is that right? People in the UN peacekeeping missions today. The top 5 countries that put soldiers into the field are Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and Jordan. The top 5 countries that put money into the UN peacekeeping are the United States, Japan, Germany, the UK, and France. So there was a scene in Hotel Rwanda, probably it's the scene that's quoted back to me most, and it was Joaquin Phoenix as the US reporter, who Paul Rusesabagina, having seen him cover a part of a massacre, said, "This is good, because people will see this massacre and the West will intervene." And he said, "Paul, people will see this when they're on the evening news, they'll say it's terrible, and they'll go on eating their dinner." Now, there's a slight adaptation on that, I believe, today. People now see what's happening in Darfur, in the West, what's happening in the Congo, what's happening in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and to some degree they say, that's terrible, we should have a UN peacekeeping force, and then they go on eating their dinner. Because we in the West are willing to pay for, to a certain degree, given our ADD attention, we'll pay for the peacekeeping force to a certain degree, and then we forget about it. And when the helicopters aren't available for the UN peacekeeping force in Darfur, then, well, maybe they don't need helicopters, or we forget about the arguments, and then we wonder why African Union soldiers are dying of beriberi, and why we can't get the forces into the field, and the West buying its conscience, having its conscience solved by paying for the UN peacekeeping, has got to stop. And if we are going to pay for it, we give the UN peacekeeping forces what they need. We give them the helicopters for Congo. We give them what they need in Darfur to put a force on the ground along with the AU. We stop this whole pretense of covering our conscience by pretending we support UN peacekeeping. And I mean, I have evolved from making Hotel Rwanda and following what happened there. And I never blame the people on the ground in Rwanda and Kigali. General Dallaire and his people were all heroes. They were sold out in the White House and in London. And they were left to carry the can and to face the abuse. And that has got to stop. And I have moved on from Hotel Rwanda to try to make a movie about one of the greatest peacemakers of our generation and of the last century, and this, Sergio Vieira de Mello, who literally lived the whole notion of peacekeeping from the day he left the Sorbonne till the day he died in Baghdad. And he learned in the various missions that he was involved in. He learned in Lebanon not to say the word, "This is unacceptable." Because he was when the Israeli army moved up the road towards Beirut, he was in a command center with an Israeli commander saying, "This is unacceptable," as 500 tanks were advancing up the road. And Sergio learned that the word unacceptable doesn't work in the UN. He also learned in Lebanon that drawing a line in the sand and saying, "You stand there, and you stand there, and we'll stand in the middle," doesn't work when the two armies don't want to stand on either side of the line. And what happens is that the UN peacekeepers get abused. He learned in Bosnia that again, if you have an army or a force that is desperate to commit violence and to dominate the other section of that society, the UN peacekeepers, if they're not empowered, can do nothing. And Sergio watched as the safe zones that he helped set up were smashed by the Bosnian Serb forces, and he watched as Srebrenica was overrun and the Dutch UN force was humiliated. And he took those lessons. He took them to Kosovo, where Alain was there, and he took them particularly to East Timor. And Sergio went from being a peacekeeper to being a peacemaker. And that is what we have to empower the forces to be today, in Darfur and in Congo, where they are taking an active role. But Sergio learned in East Timor, whereas Jose Ramos Horta and Shoshana Guzman will admit, without his force and without his direction, that country would have fallen apart. He took an active role in fighting the militias and the bandits. He lost forces there. Lieutenant Leonard Manning from New Zealand was killed defending the people of East Timor. And Sergio developed in his life and in the policy that he carried on that you have to give people the opportunity not just of peace but of security. That we need peacemakers and that we need UN police to go in afterwards and create a situation where ordinary people can feel safe. And Sergio, had he lived, I believe, would have implemented and pushed forward those policies that we need today. He gave his life for peace in Baghdad, and I think his model and the ideas that he put forward need to be replicated and carried on. And I hope to make this move. I spent 4 years with Samantha Power on the book and on the script, and should I have to go out with 6 video cameras and 15 amateur actors, I'm making this. I told Samantha, it's the same attitude as I had for Hotel Rwanda, because before I got here, I looked up in the Bible. It doesn't say, "Blessed are the peacekeepers." It says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And so we must, all of us, collectively, empower this fantastic organization from around the world to carry out its noble mission wherever it is. If they have to carry out aggressive action in the Congo to stop rape, to stop the pillaging of that country, then they must be empowered to do so. And we can't allow our Western governments to do this thing of thinking they can pay, the pittance that they were willing to put into the UN and let that save their conscience. So the role of the blue helmet, the people who wear the blue helmet, who have died for it around the world, whether it's in Haiti, in Darfur, in East Timor, in Rwanda, wherever it is, are the most noble of soldiers. Because they go not to invade, they go not to take over a country or to allegedly prop up an administration. They go to make peace. And that's what this building, this organization, and the people who fight for it are about. So I say again, blessed are the peacemakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.